Good afternoon, GSC. Yeah, much better. Do we all know what are we here for today? Sorry? Exactly correct. So we are here for the 7 New event, right? And before we begin, let's start with some inspirational stories. We've seen time and again that when women come together, magic happens, right? For example, Ella Bhatt, a young woman lawyer in 1970s, with working with the textile uh, mills of Ahmedabad. She noticed that how women worker had no rights and recognition. Instead of accepting it, she brought few women together and started Seva. Do we know what's Seva? Seva is a self-employed women's association. It began with a small handful of women in Gujarat, and today it's a movement of over 2 million women across India, not only giving income, but dignity and respect. Another story is about Mary Kom. We all know how Mary Kom brought medals for us, but she didn't stop at bringing medal. She built in new, she built an academy so other girls could also rise alongside her. So these few real life stories reminds us that when women come together, they don't just change their own lives, they change communities. With the right support system and courage to embrace change, women can turn challenges into opportunities. And that's the spirit of 7 New at GSC India. Supporting each other, embracing diverse talents, and growing together into tomorrow's leaders. Our mission is simple to empower women to learn, network, and grow while building a culture where everyone can thrive. And today, we bring by 7 Talk by 7 New, 7-Eleven's network of executive women. We began with a powerful theme, navigating career changes. Because let's be honest, careers are not built in straight line. They are a maze filled with leaps, pauses, and transitions. And with that, let's take a moment to acknowledge our 7 New core team. So with this, let's dive into the real stories, real lessons, and real inspirations from our incredible set of panelists. First up, we have someone who is a true role model for resilience. She has masterfully balanced motherhood while making powerful comeback in the corporate world. And today, she is a vice president and head of communities, DEIB, and sustainability at EXA. So with a huge round of applause, let's welcome Sri Danya. Our next guest is a fearless dreamer who dared to follow her heart. After years in the corporate world, she took a leap to pursue her passion towards photography as a full-time. Today, she has captured over 500 clients across 5 countries and 3 continents. With a huge round of applause, let's welcome Nana. And finally, we have someone with a story as dynamic as her journey. She started her career as an actress, but she didn't stop there. She transitioned into corporate world, embraced motherhood, and today she's not just thriving business, but also coaching leaders as an executive coach. And one fun fact for everyone, if you haven't seen Chak De India, you got a reason to sweet today. All right, with a huge round of applause, let's welcome Shubhi Mehta. And before we begin, may I ask the guests to please be seated. And may I invite Malar, our VP and country lead, on the stage to welcome our guests and say a few words.
Can you guys hear me? Okay. Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon. Okay, that's better. So, team gave me a script, so I'm going to go rogue now. I'm not going to do the script. So, first of all, great to see this group gathered here, and welcome to the 7 Talk series, which is an initiative by 7 New and as well as our communication team. This is a first to start with, and also welcome to the speakers here. And thank you for taking time to come and talk to us today. So he was talking about learning, right? Learning is never linear. And so the life and the career paths. You learn from everybody around you every day. Just to name a few, I learned grit from my mom. And I'm still learning patience from my wife. I'm still learning confidence in every situation from my son. So learning is not linear. Learning is not from only top down. Learning is everywhere from everyone. So today, I'm really excited with the panel here coming from different walks of life, that to changing careers, and looking forward to take some learnings, adopt those in my personal life. And so I suggest you all to listen keenly, reflect, and reset, and here to making lives better. So let's get started with the panel discussion. Thank you.
Malar, before you leave, we have some gifts. All right, to begin today's panel's discussion, and navigate this power-packed panel of amazing women leaders, may I welcome on stage our own legal powerhouse, who herself has navigated career changes, juggled motherhood, and some exciting career trajectories. With a huge round of applause, let's welcome Sneha Mukherjee.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are so excited to have you all here. Today, we are not just beginning another employee network, we are creating a movement, a space where stories of resilience, authenticity, courage, and reinvention can inspire all of us to reimagine what's possible, especially as women. As a working mother myself, I know firsthand the weight of choices, the balancing acts, and the silent resilience that women bring into boardrooms and beyond. What we hope to create through this network is not only a platform for women's voices, but also a community where experiences turn into learning, challenges turn into growth, and where support truly shapes success. With that spirit, I'm honored to moderate this panel of trailblazing women, each of whom has walked a different path, faced unique challenges, and defined success on their own terms. Their journeys are reminders that leadership is not about fitting into a mold, but about daring to stand out. Let's begin our conversation. My first question is to you, Danya. 50% of our professional success is shaped not just by skills, but by the communities we belong to. The way your mother's colleagues rallied around you shows the power of deep bonds at work. What has taught you about building genuine relationships and support systems in the workplace?
Thank you, Sneha. First of all, I'm very happy to be here at 7-Eleven. It's been a very inspiring journey that this GCC has had, and Ritvik is an old friend, so I'm very proud that he could drag me into this. I'm usually a very shy person behind the scenes. I'd like it that way, but he was very convincing. I'm sure all of you agree. The question, Sneha, I think it's very powerful because my mother worked in a government office, right, back in Kerala. She worked there for 30 years. And at some point in her journey, she signed an agreement saying that she's not going to ask for a promotion because she wanted to stay in the same city and not travel around with a small child. So she gave up a lot, yeah? But what that also helped was build a group of people around her that kind of stood with her in a lot of ways as she was, tackling a bunch of problems around her, health-wise, raising a child. But when I look back at her journey, I think she was way more courageous for her age and time that she lived in. So she adopted me when she was 36. And this was, if I tell you the year, you'll guess my age. But for that age, to take a step like that was very courageous. And then when I reflect now, that is the value that I took off from her to, kind of lean into the communities and the friends within the office and to make those bold steps when she was 36. And then to raise me, which I'm sure was not a great experience for her, right? But for me, I think my foundational, community, sense of community came from her, right? So today I have 3 a.m. friends. Today I have people I can go to if I have a problem at work, And over the years, these are the people who I've been able to lean in on. Some started off as professional, just over the counter kind of conversations, khane mein kya hai? That's where you start, right? What's for lunch? And then it grows from there, and you build those relationships. And some of them starting right from when I started my career. I was a journalist, and I moved into corporate very soon. From my journalism days to now, from my college days to now, those are the relationships that have held me together when I've thought I was going to lose it at some point, right? So that is my answer. I think finding your people is extremely important, be it at the workplace or in your personal space. And there's a lot of power in those relationships if you choose to invest back, right? So that's my story.
Wow, that's so inspiring. I'm sure everyone is very, very inspired by the story, and thanks for sharing that. My next question is for you, Nana. You made a bold and unconventional choice from moving from corporate to full-time photography. What was the turning point that gave you the courage to leap into uncertainty?
So once again, thank you very much for having me here. I want to just spend a few seconds correcting that it wasn't a sudden move. It wasn't a sudden switch. Just to give you a quick background, while I worked in the corporate for about 8 years, I have photographed for about 9. Right, so all along my corporate journey, I was pursuing my passion. It was a slow burning desire, which became or transitioned into a moment of clarity, which finally made me take the plunge. But when I say this, I also say that, it's not so easy to just jump out of something and jump into another. There are a lot of things one has to think of. You have to build a system with intention. You have to talk about it. You have to talk about it with your partner. If you're married, you have to talk about it with your family. You've got children. So, and that was my scenario. I was richer by 2 kids when I decided to leave the corporate world. So it was a decision that we spoke about as family. And that's something we will talk about a little later in terms of, how much support is needed, not only by, your immediate, but also by your extended family. And that involves not only your parents, but your in-laws, by, your friends, your colleagues, your workplace people. So it was a very conscious decision, which finally, led to this about 2 years ago. My last stint was with Amazon. I was absolutely enjoying my time. And I also want to mention that the corporate world has been a big blessing to me, and I have learned truckloads, right? And it's very important to make this point here, purely because when, people say that you leave the corporate and you pursue a passion, it sounds quite frivolous, to be honest. And it wasn't that I didn't think about it. I also thought about that, what happens when that monthly paycheck doesn't hit you, right? Like, we all wonder. That stability that corporate brings, I don't think any other profession brings, and let's all be honest. The clockwork that you do, the SOPs that you have, the every, at the end of every year, you're told how you've done, you get a rating. In entrepreneurship, nobody tells you any of it, right? So that was a big, big question. Will I be able to do it? Will I be okay with my calendar being free for a couple of days? Because in corporate, you don't have time to think, right? I think everyone here will agree that we don't have the time or the mind space to think. So, those were a lot of decisions which I actually thought of before we made this joint decision, and I took the plunge. And it's been about 2 years now. And there's not been any looking back, and it's been wonderful.
That's great. It's very encouraging story, I must say. And thanks for sharing your experience. Shubhi, from Bollywood to boardrooms, your career
I don't know which one I'm cringing for. Both. Okay, we'll go with both.
Your career transitions are truly unique. What was the toughest mindset shift that you had? And many remember you from Chak De India, but you have openly spoken about the initial disappointment with your role. Yet you turned your experience into a lesson in resilience. What did it teach you about redefining setbacks and shaping your own narrative?
I'll have to figure. What was the biggest mindset shift? Okay, so my journey from Bollywood to boardrooms has been one that has spanned decades. It's not been that I was doing Chak De India and I finished doing the movie and then overnight I was in boardrooms. It wasn't like that at all. It actually stemmed from from the outcome of Chak De. Everybody thought that since we were doing a sports film and then because we were playing a sport, we had some very wise nuggets to share to all the corporate companies. And it was at the time when the economic turmoil happened globally in 2008. So 2007 is when the film released, and by the time we came into saying, all right, next films, Bollywood was already slowing down, television was still slowing down, the economy was slowing down, and so on and so forth. But the one thing that kept people going was to ask us to come over and give them these talks like we're having one today, except that we were 16 of us being peddled everywhere around, especially Goldman Sachs, and everyone that was really having a difficult time. And I kind of got bored after about a year or so of just answering the questions about Shah Rukh Khan. I can answer them later in a break. He's very good, he smells excellent, he holds your hand like love, it's all good. And I know them now by like the back of my hand. But after about a year and a half odd, and then getting other projects, so on and so forth, I knew that just pure acting was probably not my call, and I moved into experiential education, it was mentioned somewhere. And over the so the boardroom happened only when I came, in fact, became a mother during COVID, and I shifted to Bangalore in 22. And I got a chance to work with a company called Ola. You've all heard about it, you've all used it at some point, and all the best for everyone else who's still using it. And I stayed there for about 3 years, and it was a great stint. I completely agree with you, Naina. I think we kind of demonize the corporate culture, but it does give you a sense of security that nobody else can. And I think I really needed it as a young mother at that time. I needed to know that my mother was going to, my child was going to school, I was going to work, I was going to come back, I was going to pick him up. There was a routine, there was a paycheck at the end of it. It was a happy time from that perspective. It's just that because I was coming from Bollywood, I had to bring in the drama after some point. So, I quit, and I still do, have this whole thing about being back in boardrooms, but as a consultant now. I think the only mindset that has really helped me is that I love new experiences. I think it was to sort of accept that about myself. Bollywood was one. I did roadies. If anyone's Googling right now, you'll find that as well. I did Ekta Kapoor television serials where I was touching men's feet at the drop of a hat. So I did the whole gamut. I did it all. I never said no to any experience. And I think, so when experiential education knocked at my door and said, okay, listen, hang on, we're doing the certification. You seem like, something that will interest you. Do you want to do this? I did it for 4 days. I did a certification course first. And I walked out of there so fast. I was like, what is wrong with people? Who does a job like that? But I think it was a calling, and I went ahead to do my diploma. After that, I did my certification. I became a coach. I got accredited. I'm an ACC and a PCC certified coach now. So I think it was a journey that got started. I never said no. Just after I quit Ola, they came back to me and said, we're doing a Netflix series. Would you want to say it? I said, yes. I can't tell you details. You'll see me on Netflix. So I'm just saying the idea, I think the mindset that really helped me was to be open, really be open to everything that came my way. It started with the idea of being a freelancer, and you can't say no to work. When it comes to you, you just say, okay, for the rainy day. So you keep saying yes, and then that becomes a habit, and then it's just the mindset that you kind of work with.
That's a great story of resilience and so inspiring. Thanks for sharing it. Now a leadership question, Danya. You emphasize on authenticity as a core strength for a leader. How do you personally define authentic leadership, and how can leaders bring it alive in fast-paced, high-pressure corporate environments without the fear of being misunderstood or overlooked?
That's so much packed in a question, I tell you. Everything possibly that could be going wrong, right? I think, I've been working for about 23 years now, yeah? And when I was very young, I've had great managers, right? Women and men. But the best ones that I remember are the ones who would show their vulnerability and not hide behind a mask, right? Who would, I had a boss who had 3 little children, and I used to work in a company at that time where you were expected to swipe in sharp at 9 o'clock, right? And if you don't, 10 minutes later, half-day salary goes off. So you can imagine the pressure. Yeah, this is way back. It doesn't happen now. So she used to huff and puff and come into the office, carrying the lunchbox, the breakfast, the XYZ, and all of that, because she wouldn't have had time to eat in the house before she was packing off the kids to school and all that. And to me, when I look back today as a mother of a 5-year-old, I think she just showing up like that gave her team a sense of courage. It's okay, like you have a problem that day at home. You had a fight with your husband, your maid didn't show up, right? All of that are real life scenarios, and it could affect. But the best thing about this manager of mine was she was open about it, but she also knew how to draw that authenticity out of us, right? Which means she created a space where we could go in and say, listen, I just got my periods today and I have severe cramps and I really need to go, right? And that was okay. And then there were managers who would call you on a Sunday and be like, where are you? And I'm like, well, it's Sunday. But you manage XYZ's profile and you should be on top of it. He's da-da-da. And that's when you start seeing the difference, right? You have contrasts in your professional journey. And then you realize that you have to pick up from every leader, every person, every colleague, every peer, every junior, that you work with, people around you are teaching you something all the time, right? And then once you start thinking about what you pick up, what you want to become, then it becomes easier for you to figure out how you want to lead, right? So today, when I lead a team of 6 women and 1 guy, right? And it's interesting how the conversations go, right? You can imagine, right? And the poor guy, yeah, but it's also about him and his safe space. So I'm very clear about that, right? And that, to me, is authenticity, just not holding back and being able to show your vulnerability to a group of people, create safe spaces where even what you think is trivial or small in your head could be big for someone else, right? And just walking in their shoes and being able to understand that and just call them aside. You see them a little ruffled and coffee chalte hai. We don't have flavors at AXA, but clearly you guys do. But at least, that intense authenticity that you bring in and the clarity that you have in terms of how you want to lead and what are your values, your personal values, your professional values. I think that's hopefully working. I hope my team shares the same thing that I'm sharing. But for me, that's what it is.
Do you think that women play a role in allyship when it comes to authenticity and being a support in the workplace when it comes to leadership and being more open about it, being more authentic about their struggles and their wins?
I don't think it's just the women. I think the men as well. We did a coffee conversation, couple of weeks back, and I was in your place, Neha. I was moderating the conversation, and what we said was, you've all had women in your lives, right? You've seen your wife struggle, your sister struggle, mother struggle. So it's not really a gender conversation. If you are truly human, right, and you have a sense of kindness and empathy towards people, that should just show up in the workplace. It's just common sense, right? And once you do that, then you've created safe spaces. Now, this does not mean that your work suffers, right? That same authenticity, intensity, the purpose that you come to work with every day, that has to show up in your work deliverables, right? Can't become the excuses. So you draw a very nice line, and it could be thin, which is where your judgment and your experience come in, right? And your allies and mentors come in, right? But you still have to bring the human to work.
I think both men and women need to
Absolutely, yes.
support each other and move ahead. I think that's a great leadership trip. I'm sure everyone will agree to that. And so I'll move to Snana. You have started a creative business, and it's never easy, right? And what were the biggest hurdles in building a creative business from scratch? And considering your schedule or routine might vary day to day, how do you balance work and other personal commitments?
I'm putting the order of things that you asked. Yes, I think I answered a bit of it in my previous question, in my previous response, but I will reiterate. I think the biggest learning for me, and when I was quitting the corporate, it was a big decision, but the question that came to my mind time and again was, how will I balance the rhythm of building a discipline for myself and managing the creative space, right? Because as an entrepreneur, and I spoke about it a little earlier as well, there are no SOPs, no one's telling you what to do, there is no manager telling you it's going well, it's not going well. You have to constantly push yourself, motivate yourself. There are days which are really good and there are days which are not so good. There are days when, and I've completed 2 financial years, so I can say that there's no looking back and I'm very happy where I am. But there were times when a month would look very bleak, and then I would wonder, what the hell, what am I going to do in the next month? And then suddenly the next month is double of what I would, consider or do at a corporate. So I'm saying at the end of it, I think it all balances out. But what we need to think about and be very courageous about when we're doing these things is, one, be practical. Don't only dream without having logic behind why you're doing what you're doing. Answer the why. I'm a big believer of having a LEAP fund. I have worked towards this dream of mine for years, and that's why I said at the start as well, it wasn't an on-off switch that I'm going to leave the corporate and I'm going to jump into this. So do that. But yeah, that was one of my main issues in terms of what will I do and how will I fill my time and space, and the money aspect, right? We all tend to get very attracted to the salary which comes in with the corporate. And like I said, while it all evens out at the end, it takes a little while. So there were a lot of hiccups. And I think as human beings, we all have an innate ability to do three things, and I was reading this somewhere. One is to love and be loved. The second is to have great experiences. And I think the third is to leave a legacy. I think we all want to do that in some shape and form. And there's nothing wrong in it. And the more I think about it, the more I think that, is being mediocre great, but still being where you are? Or is there something more fulfilling? Is there something more that you can do to actually leave that legacy? There are amazing actors who are not the number one. There are amazing corporate minds who don't get promotions when they're due. I mean, there's so much that happens, but are they internally fulfilled? Maybe they are, right? But what the world sees is something different. And that's the reason also for my switch. And I say it again, I loved the corporate. I enjoyed my 8 years. I learned a lot. And that's the second part of this question. But was it something which was fulfilling enough? Maybe not. I realized that the camera and I were to be friends for much longer. And maybe this relationship had to go on. And it's something that really made me jump out of the bed and create magic. And that's why I decided what I did. Not because I was frustrated, not because I was not enjoying, and not because it wasn't working out. I promise you, I was at the helm of my career when I left. And that gives me, even more confidence that, and I also like to tell people who ask me this question, that, don't do it because you're desperate. Don't do it because it's not making sense currently. Do it because of the larger why of what you're doing. So that's one part. And what
I think that's very relatable. But like you do have some corporate experience before, right? But has that experience helped you with your photography? Like, was there some instances in the corporate in the past that you feel that you could use in your photography business, and it really helped you from your experience in the past?
I think plenty. And just to I think working in the corporate teaches you how to deal with people. It teaches you how to deal with different kinds of people. It teaches you how to deal with ambiguous situations. That was one of my weaknesses when I started my career way back in 2008. I was, by a zodiac, I'm a Virgo. I am extremely meticulous. If there are any Virgos in the room, we all know we obsess about doing things in a particular way. And if it goes off track, we don't know what the hell is going to happen. So I was one of those. But the corporate world teaches you how to deal with ambiguous situations. It teaches you how to earn trust of people. Today, I can write and articulate my thoughts because Amazon had a writing policy, and we couldn't even talk without writing it out, right? So it was grilling. It was horrible when we were in it. But today, I cannot thank them more, because I don't know if any of you follow me on LinkedIn, you will see that I write a lot. And I write a lot because I feel it is the best way to articulate your thoughts. And going back, I have learned that. It's not something which has happened overnight. So these are all transferable skills, right? Which I feel that you can learn anywhere. I happen to learn it in the corporate, but somebody else can learn it elsewhere. And you pick up these transferable skills, and then you use them plug and play in photography, in leadership, in so many other, in the space of entertainment. I think we all learn it, and the best part of it is that you take it positively and use it as a competitive advantage. Today, if I can speak to a client and I can, convince them on doing something in a particular way, it is because I have done that in some other shape and form in the last 8 years of my corporate career. So I genuinely feel that transferable skills are a blessing, and whatever we learn, it's a famous quote that we are the sum of our experiences and what we've learned over the years. So that's how it's been for me.
It's really encouraging and very helpful for everyone, like, who would like to, have some other passion where they would like to, get into, and I'm sure the corporate experience would definitely help them. Shubhi, I have a next question for you. You have called motherhood your biggest role so far, and how has becoming a mother or any other major life change reshaped your priorities and influenced your career journey?
It is the biggest role that I'm playing currently, and one that I'm not acting in. It's very real. How has it shaped? So, like I said, I think when we were just getting out of COVID, I think one of the things that I really did need, and I've been a freelancer all my life, it does make it very difficult to be a freelancer, and I'm sure Naina will agree. You have to balance so many different things, and I think my job at Ola came at a very opportune moment. It gave me the kind of stability that I needed. I was also in Dehradun, which is a small town, which is where my parents have a house. So we were all kind of stuck there during COVID. It was a beautiful time that we spent together. But coming out of it, I think I needed something. I couldn't hit the ground running with neither entertainment nor as a coach, nor to build my own entrepreneurial venture at that point. I just didn't have it in me. I was also very consumed about being a mother. So when this opportunity did knock, I think it came at the time when it gave me everything that I needed. It gave me my independence. It gave me stability, a structure, and it gave me the opportunity to build a community, which I think you've spoken about with the women. My child goes to a school called Papagoya. It's a community school. And I'm very fortunate that over the last 3 years, I've now been able to build a village where, because now I'm a freelancer and I'm able to understand ambiguity differently again, and my child is okay to understand his village a lot more in depth, and there are lots of people who kind of swoop in to help me, and that has been built over the whole structured process of being there. So yeah, motherhood does shape your choices about the career at that time and what really works for you. It's currently working for me as he's 5. I have a feeling that it'll change again when he steps into his preteens. And I'm looking forward to that challenge as well. And it's surprising that I think these are the questions that you will ask women. I don't think this question would have ever been asked to Shah Rukh. How, sir, your career choices are being different? I don't think it'll ever be a question for him. Or for most men, actually. I'm sure there's a borderline there with single parents, single men who are fathers. But I feel more or less this question is the responsibility of a woman, and the changes will have to be done through our lenses for having to manage everything all together at once. Yeah, so it's just, but it's,
I
I like
completely
it.
agree. I completely agree with you. There's so much stigma, around delayed parenting and, delayed motherhood, and
Check,
a lot of questions.
check, check,
Same, yeah?
single, check, delayed, check.
Yeah.
I have a
Say
point here.
check.
Yeah.
No, so I just wanted to say that on Shubhi's point, I think it's taken for granted to a large extent, and I don't know how many mothers are there in this group, but it's just taken for granted that women can organically manage work and children. It's an underlying belief, which is great, right? But there's a lot that goes into it. And to your point on, if this wasn't raised to the men, but if I flip it and say, but, with the supportive men and the supportive families and the supportive in-laws and the supportive parents, the woman flourishes, rises and raises. And that's happening now, and we can see it.
Agreed, absolutely.
And I always say that, a woman, and I'd written about this as well, that a woman's career and how a woman shows up is very closely linked to, at least that was my analogy in my head, it's like a swan. She's a swan, right? So when you see a swan, she's elegant, she's graceful, she's above the water. But how furiously she's paddling under the water is something nobody sees, right? But that strong foundation comes because of the ecosystem that she's been blessed with. Unfortunately, some women don't get it, but some do. But the ones who do, and this one looks beautiful. So I just wanted to add that.
I agree. Motherhood is really challenging, but is also a very rewarding experience. And I think having a
If
village
they were
is-
not cute, it wouldn't have been rewarding to anyone.
I agree completely. I think that. And I said that out loud once, and I was chastised for it, saying, "How can you say that? You're a mom."
Sorry, they're alive because they're cute. There's no other,
fair
there's no other explanation I can give.
So, Dhanya, if you had like one piece of advice for working women looking to restart or re-enter the workforce, say maybe they took a break from motherhood or they took a break for mental health, what would be it? Like, what would be your one piece of advice to return to the workforce?
Courage. I think a lot of times, women, the biggest enemy that you have is yourself, right? Finding your own path, and we discussed that while we were sitting in the room there. I think finding that path that you want to follow and be very, very focused about it, having a plan around it, and then believing that courage is the only thing that you need to move ahead. And I know it sounds a little fancy when you say it out as a word, right? Courage takes courage, right? And it's never easy. But I think finding that path, finding the networks that can help you get back into, the workforce, knowing, what you've lost out on. It's not FOMO that I'm referring to, but, things are changing so rapidly across in the workspaces right now. But being able to upskill yourself, understand from the industry what's happening, and being able to bring that to the table and be competitive, fiercely competitive about it, and speak out, right? Have your friends in your circles and your whatever it is that you want to call it, but having those people around to voice it out and say, this is, I need help to do a mock interview, right? I need help to know what's really working in the industry now. I have my fears. How can I overcome that? Just having those people to talk to and being very, very fierce about it, right? Have the plan and be fierce about it.
Thanks a lot for those encouraging words. I'm sure a lot of people will, relate to this. I have some group questions from all of you. Like, what role has mentorship or peer support played in moments when you decided to take an unconventional path?
I don't think I would have been able to do it had I not had mentors. And I think, like how Naina, I think, was mentioning when we were talking about it, they find you, you find them. It's like an organic, ongoing process. I thought Shahrukh was a great mentor. While I was there, I had no idea about how to act. This was my first. The only time I'd acted before that was for the audition that I gave for Chak De India. And he's very patiently has taught so many of us on while we were shooting, given us, things to sort of think about, work on, open doors. That's what a mentor does. And that from then, whether it's in a woman, someone who's given me an opportunity for a job, or recommended me for an event, championed me when I did a good job, has taken me out of doldrums when I was really not having a good run or we all make mistakes. And as a freelancer, I think those are very, very critical. But you find these mentors everywhere. People who tell you the right thing and then walk away. Sometimes it's just that. Sometimes they came into your life, had a conversation, and it completely changed your perspective. And who better to do it than the mentor at that point? So I think I wouldn't have been here had I not had a series of mentors, and I still have them, and they still guide me. I think that the championing of from a mentor, I think, is just the best thing that you will ever experience. And if it is the opposite gender, it is great. But if it is your own gender, it is oh my God. I mean, if you find another woman who will stand there and say, take her, because she's the best, she's like the only actress you got to go with. I've had that, and I think it's the best experience. And I would like to be that to other people in my life, to other women in my life, and to just be in their corner all the time.
That's wonderful. Would you like to add something on that?
So I can just share my experience of mentorship, and like Shubhi mentioned, I think you don't always have a formal structure to find a mentor. Mentors find you, you find mentors, and along your journey and along your path, you will find some mentors, and probably there'll be mentors who will be anything but called mentors, but they will be your confidence, they will be the people you will go back to, they will be, and it could be anybody. Like she mentioned, it could be, I mean, everyone doesn't get fortunate to have Shah Rukh Khan as a mentor, but anyone and everyone, like right? But so giving a very simple example from my journey, back in 2008, I had started my career with Dr. Reddy's in Hyderabad. That's where I was, I had started my career in talent acquisition. I was working there, and my super boss at that time, she was heading the recruitment function. Anyways, long story short, I moved out of Dr. Reddy's, moved to Bombay, got married, and I was looking for a job because Dr. Reddy's wasn't in Bombay, so that was my first pause and then a restart. And it just so happened that, during my years at Dr. Reddy's, I just built a rapport with her, right? And it wasn't intentional. It wasn't a structure. It wasn't a mentor-mentee program that was organized. It was simply she had seen my work, and I was, she was my super boss. So there was some amount of connection. But we got talking. We developed our own relationship and rapport. And it just so happened that she was in a conference in Bombay, and she knew that I was getting married and moving to Bombay, and I would be looking for a job. She just happened to refer me to somebody, and she spoke 2 good words about me. And obviously, your work has to speak, right? At the end of the day, it's your work and your credentials which will get you. But the very fact that she remembered me and that we had a connect, that she had the thing to go and tell somebody just at a conference, in a meeting, that, because he was in Bombay, in TCS at that point, and he was looking for somebody, and she said, I have this person in my team, why don't you just interview her, or whatever it was. And it just so happened that I did get a call, and things went well, and I got the role. So I'm just saying how strong confidence and mentors play, and these are things you don't plan. These are things which are not, so how one thing leads to another. And the moral of the story is that I think we all have to be open to finding mentors. We all have to be courageous enough to say, I don't know enough, I want to learn more. Because I think no matter how senior you are, in whatever space you are, you never know it all, right? So whether it's leadership, whether it's business, whether it's photography, I think we all hit the ceiling at some point. And that's when we want to look out and seek people who know better than us. And I always feel that it's so much better to be in a room where you're not the best and where you can actually learn. And I think that's the most important part and takeaway for mentorship. To everyone here who doesn't have a mentor, and like you said, if you find somebody, same gender, not the same gender, somebody who believes in you before you can believe in yourself, if you find that person, please hold on to them, because you never know when they will come back in your life and when things will just flip. So be open and just let things flow, right? Just be open and say, I need to learn more, I want to learn more. That's been my experience.
Yeah, please go ahead, Tanya.
I think I agree with what both of them said, but we also have this very romanticized notion of what a mentor does, right? Always like...
Yeah, and don't go for Shah Rukh, he's unavailable. Yeah. That's why I agree.
Yeah? Yeah, so not everybody is as lucky, but I think the best mentors I've had are also people who've given me some hard love, right? Like they've been on your face, brutal, and there's a very fine line between respect, right, and not crossing certain boundaries, which you have to set for yourself, of course. But some of the best lessons come from these people, right? And it may not be a book that they give you, or it may not be one of those nuggets of pearls of wisdom that they give you, but it could be just one thing that they said that sticks on to you forever. Right? And I'll tell you a very simple example. I had a senior of mine who was working in corporate communications. I was just starting off. And there was one thing about her. Anybody comes to her for anything, and Copcom people get badgered across, right? Ritvik would agree. Anytime, she had this amazing way to make that person feel like they were important, right? And at the end of that conversation, whatever they were having, she'd always say, thank you so very much. Right? She may have done the job for the person, but she always thanked the person. And I've always wondered why she did that. And she's a great friend. She's a very, very close confidant. But I asked her that, why do you say thank you when you've helped them? She said, I've learned something there. Yeah. Right? That little interaction, I've learned something about the person. And that was eye-opening for me. Right? A lot of times we overlook people. It's very transactional, right? Can you pass me that? Or can you forward this policy? Can you review this for me? Can you approve this for me? I need to take a leave. Can you help me out? Whatever, whatever. But it gets very transactional. But it's that small things that you see in a workplace that you miss out on because you're not focusing on the conversation. You're not focusing on the person. And that's what you miss out. And for me, I've tried over the, I was a terrible manager at one point, and I've had my own lessons in leadership. And I've noticed that consistently, that the best mentors and the best leaders and the best kind of people that I've had the pleasure of working with were the ones who always cared about and gave you some tough love and said, you're not, just here to do shusha. Make it meaningful, right? And that to me is, you have to keep it open. Your mind has to be open at all times to see what's coming your way. So corporate, keep your men in the room. I'm very happy to see a lot of men in the room for sure. But men in the room, I think this applies to you as well, not just the women for sure. Make the conversations meaningful and you'd learn something for sure.
So I'm just going to add another, just piggybacking on how these mentors show up, right? I keep remembering I had a mentor who was training me to be a facilitator and an experiential educator. And he used to mention this story again and again about the manager in Jet Airways. And again, another way that you can actually identify a mentor. She never really she wasn't a big talker. But what she did was she had a placard at the back of her head. And every time somebody would walk into her door, into her cabin and ask for a solution, for a problem, ma'am ye nahi ho raha, ma'am wo nahi ho raha, ye kiya tha, waisa kiya tha, ye nahi hua, wo nahi hua, blah, and all of that. She had a placard that said, are you part of a problem or are you part of a solution? And she would look at that person, then look at the placard, look at the person, look at the placard, and that person would inadvertently leave, come back with 3 solutions. And then say, ye try kiya, ye try kiya, ye try kiya.
I'm going to try this.
I thought, and that story has stayed with me. I mean, I think I heard it about a decade and a half, ago. And every single time I say, this is a mentor, right? She's not really saying anything. She's not punishing you. She's not raising a voice, not even a word. But just such a lovely way of saying, okay, what have you tried? What have you done? How do you present yourself? And then let's talk later. So you have to now, everybody I think in the organization knew that if you're going to approach her, you take 2 solutions. And they say, ma'am, ye bhi try kiya, ye bhi try kiya. And then let's have a conversation about it. I think it's such a lovely thing that kind of stayed with me. So mentors are just, they're all here. They're in your experience, it'll be the person you're having coffee with, the person who's your boss, not your boss, someone you are a boss to, they'll be all over. They're shrooming away to glory.
Thank you so much for sharing these insightful stories. These are great experiences, and everyone has, I'm sure, related to these. Just one last final question. Like, what message would you give to young women who feel their career path isn't linear or traditional? I think you should go first.
I agree. Okay. What is the advice I'm going to give young women? Yeah, oh my God. I mean, I look it, so I guess. But guys, this is fashion. It's hard now for me, I think, to give or part on an advisory note. But okay, I feel focus less on what is, focus more on the how. I believe that what is always going to be smaller than the how. How are you going to do this? How are you presenting yourself? How is more? So invest in the how for yourself. Show up. You could be doing a job today. You could be doing something completely. The what will be there. It will always happen. Somewhere or the other, the what will carry on with you. You will keep focusing on the what, and the how slips out. And I feel it's the how. How are you showing up for the other people around you? How are you accepting help from people? Big point for, I think, young women who are starting out. We like to, at that age anyway, we don't like to be told much. And as women, I think we've been told that we have to do it ourselves. हम ही करेंगे सब कुछ, हम खाना भी बनाएंगे, हम बाहर भी जाएंगे, हम ये भी करेंगे, हम सब करेंगे. We have that syndrome where we can't. You seen a chipkali? You know, when it's on that ceiling. अगर हमने छोड़ दिया तो गिर जाएगी. नहीं गिरेगी, तुम ही गिरोगे. So it's that example that I keep thinking every time I see a lizard. I'm like, oh, bichari, like she's thinking that she's stuck there because she can't. You can leave it for someone else to do. So I think focus on the how, about building the how for yourself. So invest as much as you can in the 20s and the 30s of learning how to do things, how to be with other people, how to be for other people, how to accept help. The how is very important. So for me, that would be the advice every time you go out.
Thanks, Ravi.
Everything should be said. Plus, no one cares. Yeah? We spend so much time overthinking, thinking, sleepless nights, scrolling, figuring out. Nobody cares. Yeah? It took me quite a long time because you're conditioned like that, yeah? Because my mom, as courageous as she was, used to always tell me, you have to think about what other people will say. Right? You're a girl, you should think about. And somewhere you start questioning it, right? At some part of your journey, you start questioning it. And you're like, but why? Right? Why should I care about what other people say? Because they don't know my choices, they don't know my life, they don't live my life, right? My choices are my own, yeah? And the mistakes that I make are my learnings. That's what makes me me today. Right? So I'm going to make it. It's not just for the women. Huh? I think men also overthink quite a bit. They just don't show it. They're very smart. They have their little parties after work and they talk about it. Abbe yaar, boss ne aaj ye bola. Right? You at least vent it out. Right? And I see you do the side out to Malhar. So, but
Yeah, women have to go back and cook.
yeah, we discussed that, right? We rush back. We don't join these parties, so we have no way to vent it out. We have no way to let it go. And we're thinking constantly in the back of our mind. Right? I run on a to-do list. I think my brain looks like a to-do list. But at some point, you've got to step back and tell yourself that it does not matter. Nobody cares. It's your life. Stop the self-judging thing that you have going on. Does not help. It's only going to ruin your peace and your sleep. Take a chill pill. Do your planning, figure out the how, and just go with it. That's it.
And if you figure out how not to care, please share.
Yeah.
Tell me.
That's a great tip. Nana?
So that plus all of it, right? So adding on to what Dhanya said, I think one is don't care. But I will also say always choose yourself, right? If you're happy, you're healthy, your loved ones are happy, your children are happy, and I'm talking being a mum, we very often tend to put others ahead of us, right? And I have learned it from my own mother, who's been a working mother right from the time I remember, that it's okay not to be indispensable to your children. It is okay to not always be available to them. We have only one life and we want to live it. We also have dreams. We want to fulfill those. And I have seen her work all my life. Of course, I crib that she never attended my parent-teacher meetings, to which she said, that's rubbish. I came for all your parent-teacher. We still have that argument. I said, I barely saw you in school and I missed you on my sports days, but she denies it. But the bottom line is we turned out fine, all right? Me and my brother turned out fine, and we keep discussing this, that, why do we make such a big hue and cry about working parents and working mothers? And it's, we have to start normalizing this. We have to choose ourselves. And I think if we are happy, we are joyful, that cup will overflow into the happiness that we give our children. And I remember when I quit the corporate, my elder son, I have two sons, 10 and 5, Yes, I support wildlife. So my eldest son told me, he commented saying that, Mama, aren't you a bit too available? Like, why are you? Because I had time, right? When you quit the corporate and then you're starting afresh and then your calendar is completely free. So for a few weeks and months, I didn't have much to do other than planning on my... It's like, why are you constantly asking me what I have to do and why do I? So even, they also get very comfortable with the norm, and that is just fine. So he actually couldn't understand why his mother is so available suddenly. Of course, now things have changed, but what I'm trying to say is that children accept, children are resilient, and we all figure it out. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong in, so this was one point. And the second, that, on the advice bit, I don't want to sound preachy, but I will say the one thing that helped me, and I will encourage every single person who's trying to do something different or even continuing doing what you're doing, please hone your skills, right? Please continue to upgrade, upskill, and keep learning. Right? Whether it is in the job that you're doing today, whether it is in the passion you want to pursue tomorrow. The reason I could pursue photography is purely because I upskilled and learned it over the last few years. I couldn't have just jumped into it, right? Nobody would have given me an assignment if that was the case. So I will say that continuously learn, relearn, and upskill, because we are today in a world where we're honestly preparing for a future and none of us know. Right? We don't even know what's going to happen 20 years later. Yeah. I mean, maybe back then in that era, things were very streamlined in our parents' and grandparents' ages where careers, lives were linear. They are no longer that. So we are all preparing for something we don't know, and the best way to do it is to just have multiple skills, right? If today this doesn't work for you, you have something to fall back on. So that's something I wanted to say.
Great. Thank you so much for your valuable tips and insights. These are really, really helpful. I would like to ask the audience if they have any questions, or if they want to ask anything to the panelists.
I'll take a question about Shah Rukh Khan. I'll tell you. I'll tell you. What do you want to know about Shah Rukh?
Any other questions?
I love that. Very sassy that was.
We were very clear in our conversations. we understood everything, guys. No questions.
Okay. Thank you so much to our panelists for sharing such candid and inspiring stories. What we heard today proves that career changes are not roadblocks. They're stepping stones. With courage, support, and the right mindset, challenges can turn into chapters of growth. So let's carry the spirit into our own journeys, and remember, no one has to walk the path alone. That's what communities like 7U are all about. I would like to now invite Vivek, who has been our support throughout, to speak a few words.
Is it over? End? I thought, and I wish it could have been a little longer. It was so insightful listening to all of you. But on behalf of all of us, I would like to extend heartfelt gratitude to Shidanya, Nana, and Shubi to share your authentic stories and powerful perspectives. Your journey reminds us of all the resilience, courage, and leadership women bring, not just to the workplace, but to life itself. Special mention to Sneha for driving this wonderful conversation with such grace. And to everyone in the room who has been part of this conversation. I think what we experienced today during this session is that women executive not just bring leadership to the table, but it also drives much more powerful thought process in the workplace. I think it's also important to mention about the journey that each one of us have, be it men or women, and that defines their career growth. Right? And this is not just about celebrating women, but this is also to create a more inclusive and a future-ready workplace for all of us. So thank you so much, all of you. The more common that you know.
Very sweet. Very sweet. You can always put me on the camera. More than happy to do all that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. And with that, we end today's session. And just to concur with everyone with right network, and no one has to walk alone. After all, this is why 7 New exists. We are here for new connections, new courage, and new stories. Success is never a one-woman show. Rather, it's a team sport. So let's say cheers to that. And we have some snacks outside. Grab your tea, coffee, maybe a LinkedIn connect, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you, everyone.